Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Friday, March the 31st, 2023. What is your least favourite oracle? Well, I'll tell you what mine is. I think it's tarot cards. Tarot cards, to me, are completely unsatisfactory, and I have serious doubts about their mystical pedigree. For one thing, the first tarot card readings in history didn't take place in ancient Egypt. They took place a couple of hundred years ago during the French Revolution. So they are rather contrived, and in my experience with tarot cards, they leave you in it. You know, they tell you what's going to happen and they don't really offer any help or advice. You're stuck with them. So I would have said tarot cards are to an extent something you grow out of. I think the first time I started playing with tarot cards was when I was 12. And I think I started giving up on tarot cards, certainly in my early 30s was probably when I stopped being a regular user of them. But still, I do understand a lot of people are really into them, and they perhaps have YouTube channels in which they describe what's going to happen with them. So what actually would be going on then? And how does that compare with astrology? Well, astrology tries to be objective. It sort of looks at a set of planets on a particular day. Everyone can look up what the planets are today, and everyone can make their interpretation. And broadly speaking, those interpretations should be similar. So if you've got a Mars-Saturn conjunction, you're not going to be very positive about it. Likewise, if there's a Moon-Jupiter conjunction, that's great. And so there are definite advantages there. So let me just show you. Let's look at the chart for today. There it is. Friday, March the 31st, 2023. I've set this chart for noon. So we have the moon in Leo making a trine aspect to the sun. And, that is really good. The moon, when the moon and sun and the moon are in trine, that suggests good health. It suggests a good balance between the male and the female. And we can see that when the moon has made its trine with the sun, it moves on to the trine to Jupiter, and that is fortunate. It's exciting, and everything else. Now, I'm fairly confident about that. Likewise, with the conjunction between Mercury and Uranus, between Venus and Uranus, which has been building up for the last few days. It was exact yesterday, but still, relationships are going to be a bit unstable. I mean, that's looking at it in a negative sense. In a positive sense, there's a lot of excitement there. So this is something very objective. I'm talking about it for everyone. Now, if I did a tarot card reading, there would be a much higher level of subjectivity. And this raises an interesting question. Are the people visiting a YouTube channel when the tarot card reading is done, is it for them? Does the tarot card reading only affect them? So, you can make a choice about visiting a YouTube channel. You don't have to, and if you don't visit it, it's really not going to say much to you. But if you visit that channel and you see someone doing a tarot card reading, and they're doing that for the viewer, is that going to make an impact? So, I mean, I've got a pack of tarot cards here, actually. It's not a very good pack of tarot cards, at least in my opinion. So, according to that theory, I would take this pack of tarot cards. I would shuffle it. I could do a full reading, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull out a single card. Now, this single card only applies to the 2 or 3 people who are watching me, or maybe even 0 people. I mean, I don't get many viewers on this channel. So if you blundered into this channel today, or even in a week's time, if you blundered into this channel, I'm about to pick a tarot card reading, and I'm going to pick a tarot card, and I'm going to say something about your experience for today. And that won't apply to anyone, to anyone who's not visiting this channel. So you see the difference. The astrology, the planets today, is going to affect everyone, but something subjective like a pack of tarot cards is only going to affect the people who visit the channel. So let's have a go with this. Let's pick a card. Right, here it is. What is it? It's Justice, Libra, balance. So today, if you happen to be watching this channel, you have to get the balance right. You are going to see injustice around you. You're going to see bad things happening, and you are going to have to sort that out. Now, when I took this card out, it was reversed. So there's going to be injustice. And that means that not only might you be seeing injustice around you, but you might be inflicting injustice. So really consider that carefully. You have to be fair. So that's what this tarot card is saying. Now that's pretty vague, isn't it? But it has a certain amount of precision. It may suggest that maybe you're going to have connections with lawyers today, or even police officers. So that's something to watch out for. And if you're involving yourself in the news, it's going to really strike you how unfair the world is. So there's what I've said for the tarot card, and that only affects you. It doesn't affect anyone who isn't watching me. But as I said, as there's only 2 or 3 of you, that doesn't really matter. Anyway, I'm keeping it very brief for today. I've really got not much else to say. It is former Vice President Al Gore's birthday. But today, his chart. Okay, I'll quickly have a quick look at Al Gore's chart. Here's Al Gore's chart. With Al Gore, he very nearly became president. He narrowly lost the 2000 election, even though he got more votes than George Bush Jr. And there's a question: what in his chart indicates that he lost that election? Or rather indicates that he wasn't going to be president. Well, I don't think anything in particular. Remember, this is someone who became vice president. Not many of us become vice president of the United States, so he already did very well. But I think the hint perhaps is that he had a Mars-Saturn conjunction in his first house. The first house is our window on the world. It's how we relate to the world around us, and that Mars-Saturn may have made him slightly stilted at critical, at critical junctures. And when the election happened, transiting Saturn was on his Venus. So his social skills and his ability to reach out to the electorate in the run-up to the election took a major dive. And so that might have had something to do with it. Also, he had Uranus. Uranus was in his 7th house, his house of opponents. And I think he couldn't actually deal with what was going on in the election campaign. I think that he didn't have the flexibility maybe even the intellectual flexibility to deal with that. And Uranus kind of was just too much for him. And it hit his Mars-Saturn midpoint. It hit that very point of frustration, of being stuck. You know, it was said about George Bush Jr. that he was someone you could have a beer with, but you couldn't have a beer with Al Gore, even though both men were extremely rich. It didn't matter. You know, George Bush Jr. had greater flexibility. He seemed more, more welcoming, more human. And yeah, having that Uranus on his Mars-Saturn midpoint at the time of the election probably was just too much for him, and he just didn't have the flexibility to deal with the challenges of running a really difficult campaign. Anyway, that is all I'm going to say for today. I've kept it brief and a bit chaotic. Talked a bit about tarot cards and my problem with tarot cards. In fact, my favorite oracle is probably the I Ching. Certainly in the last few decades, I've invariably used the I Ching rather than the tarot. I Ching is much more reliable, and unlike the tarot, it gives you advice. It's because you're talking to someone, and I want to kind of get into the I Ching here in future videos. I have to work out how exactly I'm going to do that. Anyway, I'm talking too much, and I will see you tomorrow on Saturday.